The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, this is a Prime Minister who said veterans were asking for more than he could give. Right. He sued them in court after he said he never would. He's caused the homelessness that he just talked about, and he spends the money on more bureaucracy instead of on our veterans. Now, he asked how much that the Carleton mushroom farms is spending on gas. He says they're spending too much. I have their bill records here, Mr. Speaker. In November alone, it was $11,866, prorated to about $100 grand a year, which he wants to quadruple to $400 grand a year. Once again, should the farm raise prices on consumers or cut production so polluting foreign farms get the business?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the average farm family, the average farm in Canada pays far less, around 1% of what that very successful farm is paying. Because the reality is 97% of farm fuel emissions are already exempt from the price on pollution. That is why we are continuing to move forward with programs and supports to encourage farms across the country, particularly very successful farms, to look at ways to reduce their emissions as they move forward into a net zero future.
That's right.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
So that's his attitude now. Remember when he called small businesses wealthy tax cheats? Now he accuses the Carleton mushroom farm of being too successful. Therefore, they need to pay higher taxes. He clearly has no idea about our food supply chain because, of course, grains have to be dried, and the fuels for drying are now taxed. Barns have to be heated. Those barns, that heating, are now taxed. There's a common-sense Conservative bill to axe the tax on those farmers to lower the price of the food. But if he doesn't believe that this tax costs farmers, will he sit down with the Madero's Carleton Mushroom Farm and inspect their bill personally?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, our government reached out and will continue to reach out to a range of farmers across the country who want to reduce their emissions, who are concerned about climate change, who want to preserve our land for future generations, who understand, unlike these MAGA conservatives, that there is no choice anymore between protecting the environment and growing the economy. While the Conservatives want to take us back to the Stone Age, we're going to continue to invest in supporting farms, supporting businesses, supporting Canadians while we reduce our pollution, reduce our emissions, and build a stronger future for everyone.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, he's missed all his targets except for the 1 year when the Canadians were locked down. His own Environment Commissioner says that he will come nowhere near meeting his 2030 targets. And now Canada ranks 58th out of 64 on the Climate Performance Index. So his tax is not working. And nor does he seem to understand how food arrives. Food doesn't come from the grocery store, Mr. Speaker. The average farmer in Canada has to spend $150,000 on his carbon tax for barns and drying, and that all has to go to the consumers. Won't he pass our common sense bill to axe the tax on food?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, when we took office 8 years ago, Canada had no plan to reach even its very modest, the Harper government's even very modest environmental targets. We not only have surpassed the Harper targets, we put in place new ambitious targets that we are very much on track to meeting, Mr. Speaker. We have decreased our emissions over the past 2 years faster than any other G7 country, and we will continue to lead the way on demonstrating that you cannot have a plan for the future of the economy if you don't have a plan to fight climate change. That's what we're doing. That's what they are not.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, he is wrong on the facts. Under the previous Conservative government, we actually reduced emissions while growing the economy. We did it through technology and not taxes. This Prime Minister, by the way, I said earlier that Canada ranked 58th out of 64. There's a new publication of the ranking, and Canada is now 62nd out of 67. In fact, we've fallen. The higher the tax, the worse the ranking. So, will the Prime Minister finally get rid of his tax plan and come up with an environment plan?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we are on track to surpass Harper government's 2030 target, and the latest emissions projections show Canada is on track to achieving our government's new, ambitious and achievable 2030 climate goal. Our plan is working. We're seeing companies around the world invest in Canada. We were the third largest country in terms of foreign direct investment in the world earlier this year because people are noticing Canada's leadership on fighting against climate change. But that party continues to vote against measures to support our farmers, measures to invest in a cleaner economy, measures to protect Canadians and their economy from the challenges of the future. We will be there for Canadians.